My wife demanded a divorce in the house. You can't afford a lawyer to fight me, she smirked. But I had a plan. My wife demanded a divorce in our kitchen. You can't afford a lawyer to fight me, she sneered over her morning latte. I replied calmly, you're absolutely right. She served me papers 2 weeks later, only to watch the state's most ruthless divorce attorney stride into that courtroom and sit down beside me. She looked at her in shock as my lawyer smiled coldly and said, she doesn't have to afford me. I'm her older sister. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My wife, Amanda, cornered me last Wednesday morning while I was making scrambled eggs for breakfast. There was no warmth in her voice, no hesitation in her words. It was delivered with the cold precision of a corporate restructuring announcement. We were standing in the kitchen of our charming Victorian home in Portland, the house we'd spent 6 years renovating together, room by room, dream by dream. It's over, Justin, she announced, sliding a manila folder across our granite countertop. I've already consulted with an attorney. These are my terms. I didn't need to open that folder. Amanda was more than eager to outline her demands with the enthusiasm of a conquering general. She wanted our house, the house my grandmother had left me the down payment for in her will. She wanted 75% of our combined savings account. She wanted alimony for no less than 6 years. This wasn't a negotiation, it was a hostile takeover. When she finished her presentation, she leaned against our kitchen island with a satisfied smirk playing across her lips. And Justin, let's not make this messy, she said, her tone dripping with manufactured sympathy. Be realistic here. You're a middle school art teacher making $45,000 a year. You can't afford a decent lawyer. My attorney will drown you in legal fees before you even understand what's happening. It's honestly better for everyone if you just sign the papers and move on with your life. I stood there, spatula still in my hand, looking at this woman I'd loved for 8 years, this woman I'd built a life with, and felt something cold settle in my chest. She wasn't just leaving me, she was planning to destroy me financially. She saw me as weak, as an easy target to be crushed under her designer heels. Her greatest weapon, she believed, was my inability to fight back on her level. I let the silence stretch between us like a taut wire. Then I looked directly into her eyes, my expression carefully neutral, and said exactly what she was expecting to hear, "You're absolutely right." The relief that washed over her face was immediate and undeniable. She'd won. The humble art teacher wasn't going to put up any resistance. She smoothed down her silk blouse, grabbed her Coach purse and headed toward the door. "Smart choice, Justin. I knew you'd see reason. You'll be officially served next week." Then she walked out, leaving me standing alone in our kitchen with cold eggs and a shattered life. But here's what Amanda knew about me and what she was counting on. She knew I was a woman of modest means who chose teaching over profit. She knew I didn't have tens of thousands of dollars sitting around for legal battles. What she also knew, and what formed the cornerstone of her strategy, was that my older sister Natalie and I hadn't spoken in almost 4 years. Natalie isn't an art teacher. Natalie is a predator in Armani suits. She's widely considered the most feared and expensive divorce attorney in Oregon, possibly the entire Pacific Northwest. Her name makes seasoned lawyers break out in cold sweats. She's a legal assassin whose reputation for absolutely demolishing opposing counsel is legendary in courthouse circles. And for nearly 4 years she'd been completely cut off from my life. Our falling out happened after our parents died in that car accident. It was about their house, the beautiful craftsman home in Bend where we'd grown up. I wanted to keep it in the family, preserve it as a gathering place for holidays and memories. I'm sentimental that way, always have been. Natalie, ever the pragmatist, saw it as dead money tied up in real estate. She wanted to sell immediately, split the proceeds and invest the cash. We had a vicious, soul-crushing argument that ended with both of us saying things we couldn't take back. We hadn't spoken since the funeral. Amanda had witnessed the tail end of that nuclear family explosion. In her calculated assessment, my most powerful potential ally was permanently neutralized. She'd written Natalie off as a non-factor. She was catastrophically wrong. 4 or 5 days after Amanda's kitchen ambush, I wandered through our house like a ghost. Every room held memories that now felt like evidence of my own naivety. She was right about one crucial thing: I couldn't afford to fight her, not on her terms. The thought of losing my home, my savings, everything I'd worked for since college, was suffocating me. On the 6th day, I hit absolute rock bottom. And from there was nowhere to go but up. I swallowed every ounce of pride that had cost me my sister for 4 years and found her private cell number in my old contacts. My hands were trembling as I dialed. I expected voicemail or maybe her sharp-tongued assistant screening calls. Instead, after just 2 rings, I heard that familiar authoritative voice. Natalie Sterling speaking. Nat, I said, my voice cracking like I was 13 again. It's Justin. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up on me. Finally, Jus? What's wrong? Everything came pouring out. Amanda's demands, her lawyer's threats, her cold calculation that I was too weak and too poor to fight back. When I repeated her exact words, "You can't afford a lawyer to fight me," the silence that followed was different. Dangerous. She said what? Natalie's voice had dropped to a whisper that somehow sounded more terrifying than shouting. I repeated Amanda's taunt word for word. "When's the first hearing?" she asked, her tone now pure business. "Next Thursday at the Multnomah County Courthouse." "Clear your schedule," she said. "Don't speak to her. Don't speak to her lawyer. Don't sign anything. Just show up Thursday. I'll handle the rest." The line went dead. I sat there in my empty kitchen, heart hammering with a mixture of terror and hope. Amanda thought she'd disarmed me completely. She had no idea she'd just handed me a tactical nuclear weapon. The morning of our preliminary hearing dawned gray and drizzling, typical Portland October weather that matched my mood perfectly. I walked into the Multnomah County Courthouse alone, playing the part of the defeated woman Amanda expected me to be. I was wearing my best and only business suit, a navy blue outfit I usually reserved for parent-teacher conferences and funerals. Today felt like both. The courtroom was exactly what you'd expect. Sterile, intimidating, smelling of old paper and broken dreams. Amanda was already seated at the plaintiff's table, looking like she'd stepped out of a Forbes magazine cover story. She wore a sharp charcoal power suit, her blonde hair styled in perfect waves. She radiated confidence and victory. Beside her sat her attorney, Robert Hendricks, a man in his 50s with silver hair and the kind of self-satisfied smirk that screamed, "Expensive retainer." They were chatting quietly, occasionally glancing my way with barely concealed amusement. When Amanda saw me enter, her smile flickered for just a moment, replaced by something that might have been pity. She probably expected me to look more broken. I simply met her gaze with a blank expression and walked to the defendant's table, setting down my worn leather satchel with deliberate calm. Hendricks couldn't resist coming over to gloat. "Miss Parker," he said, his voice oozing condescension. "Glad you could make it. I trust you've had time to review my client's very reasonable offer. If you're ready to sign today, we can wrap this up quickly and painlessly." "I'm waiting for my counsel," I said quietly. He actually laughed out loud. "Your counsel? That's adorable. Listen, let's not drag this out unnecessarily." He strutted back to his table like a peacock. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Patricia Morrison, a stern woman with silver hair and no patience for nonsense, entered and took her seat. She consulted her docket with practiced efficiency. "Parker versus Parker," she announced. "Are both parties present and represented?" Hendricks jumped up like an eager student. "Yes, Your Honor." Robert Hendricks representing the plaintiff, Mrs. Amanda Parker. Judge Morrison looked at me expectantly. Before I could respond, the heavy courtroom doors exploded open with a sound like thunder. Every head in the room turned as my sister made her entrance. Natalie Sterling didn't just walk into that courtroom. She owned it the moment her designer heels hit the marble floor. She wore a black suit that looked like it cost more than my monthly salary, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. She moved with the predatory grace of a shark who just caught the scent of blood in the water. A ripple of whispers spread through the gallery as other attorneys and court staff recognized her. Her reputation had literally walked into the room ahead of her. She didn't acknowledge anyone else's existence. Her focus was laser-focused on me as she strode directly to my table, placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, and sat down beside me. The click of her briefcase opening echoed in the suddenly silent courtroom. I glanced over at Amanda. The smug confidence had been completely wiped from her face, replaced by a mask of pure horror. Her mouth was hanging open, her eyes wide with disbelief. She looked like she'd just watched her own execution order being signed. Hendricks looked even worse. All the color had drained from his face, and his cocky smirk had vanished, replaced by what I can only describe as barely controlled panic. He knew exactly who my sister was and what she was capable of. Natalie leaned over to me, ignoring the chaos her presence had created. "Sorry I'm late, little sister," she whispered, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. Traffic was murder. Natalie straightened up and addressed the judge with the commanding presence of someone who'd never lost a case. "Natalie Sterling, Your Honor," she announced, her voice carrying easily through the stunned courtroom. "Representing the defendant, Ms. Justin Parker." Judge Morrison's eyebrows shot up. Everyone knew that name. Then Natalie turned slowly, deliberately, toward Amanda's table. She looked at my wife, then at her terrified attorney, and delivered a smile that could have frozen hell over. "My apologies for the delay," she said, her voice dripping with mock politeness. Then she looked directly at Amanda and delivered the line that shattered my wife's entire world. "She doesn't have to afford me. I'm her older sister." The game had just changed forever. Amanda thought she was attending my surrender ceremony. She just walked into her own execution. Natalie opened her briefcase with surgical precision and pulled out a stack of documents thick enough to choke a horse. She immediately went on the offensive, systematically dismantling every single one of Amanda's demands with the efficiency of a master demolition expert. She declared Amanda's terms predatory and filed in obvious bad faith, rejecting them entirely. Then she announced our intention to file a comprehensive counterpetition. We would be demanding a full forensic audit of all marital assets and expenditures for the past 5 years. We would be seeking Amanda's full financial records, including any accounts I didn't know about. And we would be demanding that Amanda pay all of my legal fees. Hendricks just stood there stammering like a broken record. He was a minnow who'd just been cornered by a great white shark, and everyone in that courtroom knew it. "Your Honor," Natalie continued, her voice never losing its professional calm, "my client has been the victim of what appears to be a systematic campaign of financial deception and emotional manipulation. We have reason to believe that Mrs. Parker has been hiding assets and potentially engaging in fraudulent behavior throughout this marriage." Amanda looked like she was about to faint. The color had completely drained from her face. Judge Morrison, clearly impressed by Natalie's presentation, granted every single one of our motions. Amanda was now legally obligated to turn over 5 years' worth of financial records. Every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt, everything. As we left the courthouse that day, Natalie put her arm around my shoulders. "She picked the wrong family to mess with, Jess," she said quietly. "Now we go to war." The battle was over before it had even begun, but Amanda didn't know it yet. The 2 months following that first court appearance were a masterclass in legal warfare. My sister doesn't just practice law. She wages total war with the precision of a military strategist and the ruthlessness of a Viking raider. Amanda and her lawyer thought they could steamroll a simple art teacher. Instead, they found themselves facing a relentless, systematic assault that left them gasping for air. The first weapon in Natalie's arsenal was a discovery motion that legal experts later called a thing of terrible beauty. It wasn't just a request for documents, it was a surgical strike demanding every piece of financial evidence Amanda had touched in the last 5 years. Bank statements, credit reports, employment records, Venmo transactions, Amazon purchases, even her Starbucks app history. Everything. Hendricks tried to fight back, filing a motion claiming our demands were overly broad and constituted harassment. Judge Morrison took one look at Natalie's meticulously crafted legal justification and approved our motion in its entirety. Amanda was now legally compelled to hand over her entire financial life. While Amanda was drowning in discovery paperwork, Natalie launched the second phase of her campaign, depositions. She scheduled interviews not just with Amanda, but with her friends, her family, her coworkers, even her personal trainer. Her strategy was elegant in its simplicity: apply pressure from every angle until the truth came spilling out. The breakthrough came during the deposition of Amanda's best friend, a woman named Brittany Walsh. Brittany was fiercely loyal to Amanda, but she was no match for my sister's interrogation skills. Natalie was charming, professional, and absolutely merciless. For 4 hours, she questioned Brittany about Amanda's lifestyle, her spending habits, her work travel, her general happiness in our marriage. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, she asked the question that cracked the case wide open. "Ms. Walsh, can you tell me about Marcus Jason?" I saw Brittany physically flinch. The name meant nothing to me, but Natalie just waited, her expression neutral as a sphinx. Brittany tried to play dumb, but Natalie was ready. She produced a stack of credit card statements from an account I'd never seen before, an account secretly linked to our joint savings that Amanda had been systematically draining for over 18 months. She pointed to a series of charges: the Heathman Hotel in downtown Portland, jewelry from Tiffany & Company, expensive dinners at Le Pigeon for 2 people. Mrs. Parker claimed to be attending a marketing conference in Seattle on these dates, Natalie said calmly. But her employer has confirmed no such conference existed. You weren't with her on this trip, were you, Ms. Walsh? So I'll ask again, who is Marcus Jason? Under the pressure of potential perjury charges, Brittany broke completely. Marcus Jason was Amanda's lover, a successful tech entrepreneur she'd been having an affair with for the past 2 years. Everything suddenly made perfect sense. The secrecy, her financial demands, her supreme confidence that I wouldn't fight back. She wasn't just leaving me, she was leaving me for someone with significantly more money. She was trying to strip mine our marriage for assets to fund her new, upgraded lifestyle with her tech millionaire boyfriend. Marcus Jason's deposition was even more devastating than Brittany's. He was everything Amanda had apparently decided she wanted instead of me: wealthy, arrogant, and completely amoral. But his cockiness crumbled like a house of cards under Natalie's relentless questioning. He admitted to the affair without hesitation, seeming almost proud of it. He admitted that he and Amanda had been planning her exit strategy together for months. Most damning of all, he admitted that demanding the house and spousal support had been his idea, telling Amanda that her pathetic teacher wife would be too poor and too weak to fight back effectively. They had miscalculated catastrophically. They had underestimated my family. With these depositions in hand, Amanda's case wasn't just weakened, it was completely obliterated. She had committed perjury in her initial filings by claiming to be a faithful wife seeking a fair settlement. She had hidden assets and stolen marital funds to finance her affair. She was a liar, a cheat, and a fraud, and now we had it all documented under oath. Her attorney called Natalie in a panic, begging to settle. He said Amanda was willing to drop all her demands and just walk away from the marriage with nothing. Natalie's response was ice cold: no. Walking away quietly is a privilege she forfeited when she decided to try to destroy my sister. We're not settling. We're going to court and we're going to burn her entire world to the ground. Amanda had wanted a war. Now she was going to get one. The final court date arrived like an executioner's appointment. Faced with the mountain of evidence against her, the depositions, the forensic accounting reports, the proof of her systematic theft and adultery, Amanda had no choice but to surrender unconditionally. Hendricks, looking like he'd aged a decade in 2 months, advised her to accept whatever terms we offered without negotiation. The terms Natalie had crafted were absolutely brutal. Amanda didn't just walk away with nothing, she walked away owing money. She was forced to relinquish all claims to our house. Her demand for spousal support was dismissed with prejudice. And because Natalie proved she'd spent over $85,000 of marital assets on her affair, hotels, jewelry, vacations, even a down payment on a condo she'd secretly purchased with Marcus, the judge ordered that amount deducted from her share of our savings and returned to me. She left our marriage with a tiny fraction of what she'd originally demanded, a mountain of legal bills, and the public humiliation of having her entire sordid scheme exposed in open court. The collateral damage to her personal life was equally devastating. Marcus Jason, faced with the legal and social consequences of his actions, dumped her immediately after the trial ended. He was attracted to winners, and Amanda had just suffered the most spectacular public defeat of her life. Her friends, many of whom had been forced to testify about her lies, distanced themselves from her reputation. She lost her house, her lover, her savings, her social circle, and her dignity, all because she underestimated the quiet woman she'd married. But the real story, the most important part of this entire nightmare, was what happened between my sister and me. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Natalie called me. Her voice was different somehow, softer than I'd heard it in years. "Meet me at the old house," she said simply. I drove out to Bend, to our parents' Craftsman home that had been sitting empty since their death, the house that had driven us apart. I found Natalie sitting on the front porch steps, looking smaller somehow without her courtroom armor. We didn't talk about Amanda. We didn't rehash the legal victory. Instead, we talked about Dad's terrible attempts at teaching us to fish, about Mom's incredible Sunday morning pancakes, about being kids who thought we'd be best friends forever. Finally, after a long, comfortable silence, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I was wrong, Jess," she said quietly. "I was so focused on the money, on treating everything like an asset to be optimized, that I forgot what this place really represents. It's our home. It's where we became sisters." "I was wrong too," I admitted. "I was so stuck in the past that I couldn't see there might be a different future for this place for us. We didn't sell our parents' house. We decided to restore it together. We've spent the last several months out there every weekend, painting rooms, fixing the creaky floorboards, bringing it back to life. It's not a shrine to the past anymore. It's a project for our future, a place where our family, the real one, can gather again. Working side by side with my sister, tools in our hands and paint in our hair, has healed a wound I thought would scar us forever." Amanda's parting shot to me was that I couldn't afford a lawyer to fight her. Her greed, her arrogance, her absolute certainty that I was weak and alone, that became the very thing that forced me to swallow my pride and call the one person who could save me. She thought she was isolating me from my greatest asset. Instead, she gave me back the most important relationship in my life. She tried to leave me with nothing. But as I stand here today, secure in my home with my sister back in my life, I realize I have everything that truly matters. And Amanda? She has exactly what she deserves. Nothing at all. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's getting your family back.